What happens when a usually calm, composed, soft-spoken star finally reaches her breaking point on live television? Before we take you inside the moment Saoirse Ronan stunned the audience, confronted Joy Behar, and ultimately walked completely off the set of The View, because what you're about to hear is one of the most unexpectedly explosive daytime TV moments in years. It began quietly, almost too quietly, like the kind of morning where nothing seems unusual, yet something electric hums beneath the surface. The studio lights warmed the glossy table, the audience clapped with the usual excitement, and the hosts settled into their chairs. Joy adjusted her glasses. Whoopi leaned back. Sunny glanced over her notes. And in the middle of it all, Saoirse Ronan sat poised, her hands folded neatly, her expression bright and open, but hiding something deeper. The segment started the way most of her interviews do, gentle, warm, full of charm. The acclaimed actress was there promoting her latest film, a heavy, emotionally charged drama about identity, sacrifice, and personal autonomy. A film that had already gained enormous buzz. Whoopi smiled first, easing into the conversation. "You always choose these roles with such emotional depth," she said, her tone sincere. "What drew you to this one?" Saoirse breathed in softly. "I think people underestimate how much we're all carrying," she said. "This character felt like a mirror to so many of us, someone trying to be understood, even when it's uncomfortable." The audience hummed with appreciation. Joy, however, leaned forward, tapping her pen on the desk, once, twice, in a rhythm that hinted at a direction the conversation was about to take. She had already circled something on her card. She had a point she intended to make. And if the tension in her shoulders meant anything, she believed it strongly. "So," Joy said, cutting through the moment with her distinct tone, "do you ever worry that you're making things too serious? You know, that people come to movies to escape life, not to be weighed down by it." The energy shifted. A subtle ripple. You could almost hear the air tighten. Saoirse blinked, surprised not by the topic but by the framing. "I don't think emotions weigh people down," she replied kindly. "They give people a space to breathe." Joy raised an eyebrow. "But don't you think audiences have had enough heaviness in the world? Maybe it's time actors bring something lighter, not something that feels like homework." Laughter bubbled from a few scattered seats in the crowd, not mocking, just awkward, uncertain. The kind of laugh that forms when people sense conflict coming but aren't sure yet. Saoirse shifted in her seat. Her gaze lowered for a moment, then lifted again, more direct now. "Well," she said, "art isn't homework. It's connection." But Joy wasn't backing down. "Not today." "I get that," Joy said. "But sometimes the message can be so intense it feels like you're lecturing people. And audiences don't like feeling lectured." Sunny shot Joy a glance. A knowing, quiet please don't push this glance. But Joy ignored it completely. Whoopi intervened softly. "I don't think that's what she's doing." Joy continued anyway. "I'm just saying, not everything needs to be some deep emotional discovery. Sometimes people just want fun." The audience murmured. A mix of agreement and discomfort. And that's when it happened, the first fracture. Saoirse inhaled sharply, gathering something within herself. Her smile thinned. Her posture straightened. When she spoke again, her voice carried a new undercurrent, gentle still, but firm, like velvet laid over steel. "Joy," she said, "I don't think honoring human emotion is a lecture. I think it's empathy. And if that feels heavy, maybe that says more about us than about the work." A soft gasp rolled through the audience. Joy's eyebrows slowly arched upward in that signature "oh really?" expression she's known for. "Well," Joy replied, not missing a beat, "maybe empathy is great, but sometimes actors get a little self-important about how vital their art is. We're talking about movies, not world peace." The tension tightened again, like a string being wound too far. Sunny's eyes widened. Whoopi leaned back with a sigh, and the audience collectively held its breath. Saoirse didn't look away. Not this time. Something in Joy's tone had ignited something raw, something she rarely shows. The part of her that protects what she loves. "I think storytelling can change people," Saoirse said quietly, but the quietness only made it more palpable. And dismissing that as unimportant feels unfair. Joy let out a short laugh, not cruel, but sharp. "It's not dismissing. It's grounding. People need grounding." "Or maybe," Saoirse replied, "they need understanding." Joy's lips tightened. A flash of annoyance flickered across her eyes. "Well, I'm just saying what a lot of viewers think. Not everyone wants to be emotionally wrung out watching a movie." "Then they can choose differently," Saoirse said. But the work still needs to exist for people who need it. There it was, the second fracture. And this one spread like lightning. Joy exhaled dramatically. All right. I get it. You feel strongly. But I still think. And then she paused, lifting her hands slightly in a gesture that instantly sent Saoirse's expression shifting. Joy wasn't just disagreeing now. She was brushing the entire idea off. It's a little pretentious, Joy finished. The room went silent. Utterly silent. The kind of silence that makes even the cameras seem to stop breathing. Saoirse froze. Her mouth parted slightly, not in shock, in disbelief. In that moment, she had the look of someone who had been slapped with a word she rarely hears, especially not on national television. Whoopi immediately sensed the shift. Joy, she said warningly, come on. But it was too late. Something in Saoirse's face softened, not with tenderness, but with pain. And then, that pain hardened into something sharper, something resolute. I'm not pretentious, she whispered. Joy shrugged. It's just an opinion. No, Saoirse said, louder now. It's dismissive. And it's disrespectful to the work so many people put their hearts into. The audience let out a collective ah. Sunny stepped in quickly. Let's just clarify. But Joy cut her off. I'm entitled to my opinion. And I'm entitled to stand up for my work, Saoirse shot back. The studio electrified. It was like watching a thunderstorm form right in front of the cameras, cloud by cloud, spark by spark. Joy, you basically said her art is meaningless, Sunny said, trying to bring reason back into the space. I never said meaningless, Joy countered. Just maybe a bit dramatic for the times we're in. Saoirse's jaw tightened. Maybe the times we're in need honesty. And maybe, Joy fired back, actors need to stop assuming they are saving the world. Whoopi closed her eyes briefly. Okay, all right. But by now, the emotional wheel had turned too far. Saoirse slowly looked down at her hands, as if steadying herself. When she looked up again, her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with something fiercer. I didn't come here to be insulted, she said softly. Joy scoffed. Oh, come on. Nobody's insulting you. You called me pretentious. I said the approach can feel pretentious. It's the same thing, Saoirse whispered. Another wave of murmurs swept through the audience. Joy's expression hardened just a fraction. If that upset you, maybe you're taking yourself too seriously. And that was the moment, the exact moment, when Saoirse's breath caught, her shoulders lifted, and something inside her finally snapped. She stood, slowly at first, gracefully, even, but with a finality that chilled every person in the studio. Sunny's mouth dropped open. Whoopi leaned forward. Joy blinked, then blinked again, as if trying to decide whether to double down or pull back. Saoirse didn't give her the chance. I'm not staying here to be mocked for caring, she said, voice trembling, not from weakness, but from deep, fierce conviction. If compassion is something to laugh at, this isn't the table I should be sitting at. And with that, she stepped back from her chair. The audience gasped so loudly the microphones picked it up. Wait, Saoirse, Sunny said, rising slightly from her seat. Hold on. But Saoirse was already moving. Her heels clicked softly but decisively against the stage floor. Her shoulders were tense but lifted. Her face held a mix of anger, hurt, and the unmistakable determination of someone refusing to be belittled. Joy stood halfway. Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. Saoirse stopped, just for a second, and turned her head. Her eyes were glistening. Her breath was shaky. But her voice, when it came, was sharp enough to cut through the heavy studio silence. Maybe drama is what happens when someone finally stands up for themselves. The audience erupted, not with cheers, not with boos, but with stunned, explosive shock. And then Saoirse walked. Off the stage. Off the set. Off the air. Leaving the hosts frozen, the cameras scrambling, the audience buzzing, and Joy Behar standing in the center of the storm she had just ignited. For several seconds after Saoirse Ronan disappeared behind the curtain, the studio seemed to lose its sense of direction. The cameras stayed locked on the empty space she'd just left. The audience froze, caught between disbelief and the urge to react. Even the hosts themselves seemed stunned into silence, each one processing the moment in their own private storm. Whoopi was the first to move, leaning forward with her elbows on the table, one hand pressed against her forehead. Oh, God, she muttered under her breath, though the microphones still caught it. All right, we need a second. Sunny looked toward the backstage area as if hoping Saoirse would suddenly reappear. She's upset, she whispered, her voice trembling between concern and the need to remain professional. Really upset. Joy Behar stood rigidly, her hands resting on the edge of the table. Her face shifted through emotions, defensiveness, confusion, irritation, then something she rarely revealed on camera, doubt. How was that my fault? She said, sounding more nervous than she intended. Actors get passionate. I wasn't attacking her personally. The audience reacted with a mix of murmurs and low gasps. Sunny snapped her head toward Joy. You called her pretentious, Joy. That's personal. Joy's eyebrows shot up. I said the approach looked pretentious. That's not the same thing. Joy, Whoopi said softly, almost tenderly, come on. But Joy wasn't ready to accept it. Her pride stood tall, even against the obvious tension in the room. What? She insisted. I'm allowed to have an opinion. Sure, Sunny replied. But you can't expect everyone to swallow it politely. She's human. I'm human too, Joy fired back. The audience murmured again, louder now, caught in the crossfire of emotions. The floor manager appeared at the edge of the set, waving discreetly for the show to take a break. But Whoopi held up her hand, signaling to wait. The moment had already become bigger than the schedule. Bigger than commercial breaks. Bigger than anything they had planned. Let me just say something, Whoopi said, adjusting herself in her chair as she addressed Joy directly. Saoirse came here in good faith. She's sensitive. And you poked at something that mattered to her. Joy stiffened. I wasn't trying to poke at anything. Sunny exhaled. Intent doesn't erase impact. Joy rolled her eyes. Oh, so now we're using therapy words. Come on. Whoopi gave her a long, steady look. You know exactly what we mean. Joy sat back down, but she gripped her mug so tightly her knuckles paled. The defensive shield around her was fully up, but something in her eyes flickered. Something like regret mixed with indignation. Meanwhile backstage, Saoirse moved quickly, her breath uneven, her palms shaking as she pushed past stagehands and assistants who tried to slow her down. She wasn't crying, not yet, but her throat tightened, and her eyes burned. Cameras weren't supposed to catch people in this kind of moment, but a roaming backstage camera had picked up just a glimpse, her hand pressing against her forehead, her expression raw and fragile. A producer rushed toward her. Saoirse, wait. She didn't stop. I need air, she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. I need space. But we can talk. No, she said firmly, though her voice trembled. I'm not staying out there to be laughed at. She kept walking, her heels clicking sharply, echoing through the hallway like punctuation marks to her growing frustration. Back on stage, the conversation was spiraling. Sunny turned back to the table. We all saw her face, Joy. She felt attacked. Joy's voice softened slightly, though it remained laced with irritation. Well, I didn't think she'd take it that personally. Why wouldn't she? Sunny said. She pours her heart into her work. Joy hesitated. The audience leaned forward, sensing the cracks forming beneath her usual confidence. I didn't mean to hurt her, she said finally. I really didn't. But the admission came too late. The energy had already shifted. The studio was a battlefield now, and every viewer watching at home could feel the tremor rolling through it. The floor manager signaled again urgently. This time Whoopi nodded. All right, she said, eyes still heavy with frustration. We're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. The lights dimmed slightly. The applause sign blinked, but the audience clapped only half-heartedly, distracted, processing, whispering. When they returned from commercial break, the atmosphere was different. Thick, dampened, unpredictable. Whoopi opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, a soft voice from behind the cameras interrupted. It was one of the producers. She's not coming back, he whispered loudly enough for the hosts to hear. Sunny's shoulders dropped. Oh my God. Joy's lips parted in shock. What? She's actually leaving the building. She's very upset, the producer replied. We tried to talk to her. She asked for a car. The audience gasped again. Joy blinked rapidly, and for a second, she looked truly shaken. Not angry, not defensive, just stunned. I didn't think, she whispered. Sunny looked directly at her, not with anger but with a calm, cutting sincerity. Words matter, Joy. And that line, that quiet, steady line, seemed to slice through the last layer of Joy's defenses. I didn't mean to hurt her, Joy repeated, but this time it wasn't defensive. It was strained, honest, almost regretful. Whoopi leaned forward. Intent matters, but impact matters more. Joy swallowed hard. But before she could reply, the audience suddenly erupted into a low, emotional noise, murmurs, whispers, the sound of hundreds of people reacting simultaneously. Because from the corner of the set, they had caught a glimpse of a young woman in a headset rushing to give an update to the producers. Her face said everything. Saoirse was gone. Completely gone. Out of the building, into a waiting SUV, the door closing behind her as cameras outside snapped photos of her storming past security with her eyes still shimmering. The image spread across the studio monitors in real time. Someone outside had already posted it online, and within minutes, the hashtag #Saoirse Walks Off was beginning to circulate. The hosts saw the same thing on their monitors. Sunny covered her mouth with her hand. Oh no. Whoopi exhaled heavily. This is bad. Joy's face flushed red. She grabbed the edge of the desk, her voice cracking just slightly as she said, Okay, I didn't want this. I didn't want her storming out and the internet blaming me for. Sunny cut her off gently but firmly. Joy, it's not about blame. It's about understanding why she felt hurt. Joy looked down, her eyes narrowing with a mixture of guilt and frustration. I honestly didn't think calling something pretentious would make her walk off a set. Because to her, it wasn't about the word, Sunny replied. It was about being dismissed. Joy pressed her lips together. She said nothing for several seconds. The audience watched her with an intensity the show rarely saw. Even the cameras zoomed in, catching every micro-expression, the swallow, the faint tremor in her jaw, the tension around her eyes. When Joy finally spoke, her voice was lower. Smaller. Maybe I did go too far. Sunny and Whoopi exchanged a glance, a subtle acknowledgement that the breakthrough, however small, had begun. But the fallout was just starting. Backstage, producers scrambled. Publicists paced. Assistants whispered into headsets. The control room exploded with activity, trying to manage the chaos. Meanwhile, the show continued on air, stumbling through the debris of an emotional explosion. We hope Saoirse is okay, Whoopi said to the audience, her tone warm but laced with concern. We care about her. We care about all our guests. Sunny nodded. We respect her work deeply. Joy swallowed again, hesitating, then finally forcing out the words. I regret upsetting her. The audience reacted with a soft mixture of surprise and approval. But social media was already on fire. Images of Saoirse walking out. Clips of the tense exchange. Edits of Joy calling her pretentious. Tweets defending Saoirse. Tweets criticizing Joy. TikToks being made in real time with dramatic background music. Thousands of comments. Screenshots. Headlines forming like storm clouds. Within minutes, the moment had become a viral live broadcast. Whoopi looked toward the monitor, seeing the rapidly rising hashtag numbers. We're going to have to talk about this, she said, mostly to herself. We are talking about it, Sunny said. Joy looked tired now, genuinely tired, as if the weight of the moment had finally settled on her shoulders in full. I just wish, she began, then paused. I wish she hadn't walked away thinking she wasn't respected. The audience softened at that, a sympathetic murmur rolling through them. But the damage was already done. Outside the studio, Saoirse sat in the back of the SUV, head bowed, hands clasped together tightly. Her publicist sat beside her, speaking softly. You okay? Her publicist asked gently. Saoirse didn't look up. Her voice was faint but steady. I didn't want to snap. I didn't want to just walk away. It's all right, her publicist said. You were hurt. I know, Saoirse whispered. But I hate losing my composure. You didn't lose it, her publicist said. You protected your dignity. Saoirse finally looked up, her eyes shining. It didn't feel like dignity. It felt like pain. In the studio, the tension eventually eased enough for the show to move on to the next topic. But the emotional imprint remained. Every laugh felt forced. Every transition felt shaky. Joy barely spoke. Sunny carried the weight of trying to keep the tone stable. Whoopi held the conversation together with the calm experience of someone who had seen many storms. But even she looked rattled. The moment had already passed from television into history, one of those rare, raw, unforgettable daytime moments that people would talk about for days, weeks, possibly years. But the real reckoning, the conversation that would change everything, was still coming. Not on the stage. Not in front of the cameras. It would come when the hosts returned to their dressing rooms. When the producers sat Joy down. When the network made their calls. When Saoirse's team crafted their statement. The explosion had happened, but the aftershock was only beginning. The energy behind the scenes was nothing short of chaos. While the show continued on air with awkward transitions and forced smiles, the backstage corridors pulsed with frantic footsteps, urgent whispers, and a tension that clung to the walls like humidity. Staff members moved quickly, some carrying headsets, some clutching clipboards, and others simply trying to stay out of the way while the storm of emotions swirled around them. Joy Behar's dressing room door shut with a soft but unmistakable slam. The kind of slam that wasn't about anger, but about bracing yourself, regrouping, hiding from the immediate consequences. Inside the room, she stood still for a moment, staring at her own reflection in the vanity mirror. The bright bulbs outlining the mirror cast sharp lines along her face, emphasizing the tired concern in her eyes. She dropped her note cards onto the counter and exhaled slowly, as if the weight of the moment had finally settled, and settled hard. "Damn it," she whispered to herself. There was a knock at the door. Joy didn't move. "If you're here to yell at me, just do it quickly." The door opened, and Sunny stepped inside. But she didn't look angry. She looked heavy-hearted. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Joy nodded. Sunny closed the door gently behind her, then crossed her arms, not defensively, but thoughtfully, as she leaned against the wall. They were both quiet for several seconds. Joy finally broke the silence with a dry, brittle voice. "You think I'm a monster now?" Sunny shook her head. "No, I think you were blunt," and she wasn't in a place to hear it. Joy scoffed softly. "Blunt? Sunny, I've been blunt since the Clinton administration." Sunny stepped closer. "The difference is, today, it hit someone who wasn't expecting a fight." Joy looked down at her hands. "I wasn't trying to start a fight." "I know," Sunny said gently. But she felt dismissed. Joy's jaw tightened. "Maybe I was too harsh." Sunny's expression softened even more. "You weren't cruel. You just didn't see how deeply she took it." Joy swallowed, her throat working visibly. "I didn't expect her to walk out." Sunny hesitated, then said, "Sometimes quiet people break the hardest." Joy looked away, her eyes glistening just slightly. "I didn't mean to hurt her." Sunny touched Joy's shoulder. "I know, but intent doesn't stop consequences." For the first time since the moment exploded on air, Joy closed her eyes, and she looked genuinely shaken. Meanwhile, across the building, Whoopi Goldberg walked briskly toward the producers' meeting room. Her steps were confident but weighted. The kind of walk you take when something must be handled immediately. Inside the room, several producers and assistants sat around a long table covered in papers, schedules, and glowing iPads showing live audience reactions. One of the producers stood immediately when Whoopi entered. "We're trying to manage the online fallout," he said, rubbing his forehead. "It's spreading faster than we expected." Whoopi didn't sit. She remained standing, her presence commanding. "What's the narrative right now?" she asked. Another producer flipped an iPad around. "Most people are siding with Saoirse. The clip of her saying, 'I'm not staying here to be mocked for caring,' is going viral. And Joy's line about actors being self-important. People are taking that as a personal insult toward her." Whoopi nodded slowly. "Well, it wasn't her finest moment." A third producer sighed. "We need a strategy. The network is calling in 10 minutes. Let's start with the basics," Whoopi said. "We need to make it clear that we care about our guests. We need to acknowledge her feelings. And we need to do this without turning Joy into a villain." A producer lowered his voice. "The problem is, the internet already did." Whoopi pinched the bridge of her nose. "Then we need to stop the fire from spreading." Back in the SUV, Saoirse sat quietly, staring out the tinted window as the car turned onto the busy street. People outside didn't recognize her at first, but once they did, phones lifted. Flashing lights burst. A wave of clicks echoed. Her publicist leaned forward. "We can issue a statement later today. Something that explains your side without escalating anything." Saoirse didn't nod. She didn't speak. Her fingers twisted anxiously in her lap. "I wasn't trying to start drama," she said finally, her voice faint and brittle. "I just felt small. Dismissed." "You weren't wrong to stand up for yourself," her publicist assured her. She hit a nerve. Saoirse pressed a hand against the window, watching her reflection blur against the passing buildings. "But I didn't want it to become this big." "It already is," her publicist said cautiously. "But we can control your part in it." Saoirse closed her eyes for a moment. "I hate conflict." "I know," her publicist whispered. "But sometimes conflict finds you." At the studio, Social media managers were typing furiously, trying to monitor the swelling storm. Comments flooded every platform. Joy owes her an apology. Saoirse was right to walk off. That was disrespectful. Actors are pretentious. Joy said what we all think. This is wild. Joy made her cry. A producer read a few comments aloud, wincing. This is not great. Whoopi emerged from the meeting, her stance heavy but determined, and headed back to the stage where Sunny and Joy were still quietly talking. When Whoopi re-entered, both women looked up. Sunny saw the exhaustion in her posture. How bad is it? Whoopi let out a long, slow sigh. Bad. Joy's face drained. Bad like trending bad. Bad like trending worldwide bad, Whoopi clarified. Joy's body sagged. Oh, God. Sunny stepped forward. Joy, look, you can still fix this. Joy looked unconvinced. How? By writing her a poem. Whoopi gave her a stern but not unkind expression. By apologizing. Joy looked up sharply. I didn't. Whoopi cut her off without raising her voice. You didn't intend to hurt her. I know. Sunny knows. Half the audience probably knows. But intentions won't change the fact that she walked out because of something you said. Joy didn't speak. She looked older in that moment, not physically, but emotionally. Like the day had taken 10 pounds of energy she didn't have to spare. A knock interrupted them. A young assistant poked her head inside. They, want you all in hair and makeup in 10 minutes for a post-show recap taping. Joy frowned. We never do recap tapings. The assistant shifted awkwardly. The network wants transparency. Whoopi exhaled. Of course they do. After the assistant left, Sunny approached Joy again. Listen, you and Saoirse are not enemies. This just hit wrong. Joy rubbed her temples. I wish she understood I didn't despise her work. I actually admire her. Then tell her, Sunny urged gently. Joy shook her head. She's not picking up calls right now, according to producers. Try later, Sunny suggested. Joy nodded weakly. Meanwhile, Saoirse sat in her hotel room now, finally away from cameras, audience whispers, and studio tension. Her publicist had ordered room service, but the food sat untouched. Saoirse sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped, her breathing finally slowing. But the replay of Joy calling her approach pretentious wouldn't leave her mind. It replayed over and over, echoing with that offhand tone, the kind of tone that didn't realize it hit a bruise. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. A text from her mother in Ireland. Saw the clip. Are you all right, love? Saoirse pressed her lips together, exhaling shakily. She typed back. I'm okay. Just overwhelmed. Another message came in from her best friend. Joy Behar really had the nerve? Girl, I would have walked off too. Saoirse gave a small, pained smile, the first since leaving the studio. She typed back. I don't like scenes. I didn't want one. Her friend responded. But you handled it with dignity. Seriously. You walked away. You didn't shout. You didn't get ugly. You kept your grace. Saoirse stared at the message for a long moment, then set the phone aside and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Back at the studio, Joy and the host sat down again for the post-show taping. It wasn't live, but the network wanted something raw, honest, and immediate. Whoopi opened softly. Before we wrap today, we wanted to address what happened. Sunny nodded. We care deeply about our guests, including Saoirse. Emotions were high, and things were said that may have felt sharper than intended. Joy looked at her hands, then lifted her head. And the moment she did, the studio fell completely silent. I want to say, she began, voice quivering just slightly, that I never meant to hurt Saoirse. I admire her. I admire her work. I have opinions, I always have, but I didn't intend to make her feel dismissed. The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. Sunny nodded gently. Thank you for saying that. Joy swallowed hard. I hope she knows that. Whoopi added, we hope to have her back in the future. The taping ended. Joy remained seated for a long moment, as if absorbing the weight of everything she had said and everything she had caused. Sunny knelt beside her, touching her shoulder again. You did the right thing. Joy breathed out, eyes glistening. I hope it's enough. But the story was much bigger now. The videos were spreading, the comments multiplying, the headlines forming, and the real emotional aftershock, the one that would ripple through talk shows, celebrity circles, and social media alike, was just beginning to unfold. The studio felt hollow in the minutes after Saoirse vanished backstage, leaving only the echo of her footsteps and the stunned murmurs rippling between audience rows. Joy Behar sat stiff in her chair, jaw locked, staring at the floor as if trying to piece together how the conversation had spun so wildly out of control. Sunny Hostin shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi leaned back, taking a long breath, her expression somewhere between disbelief and disappointment. The cameras kept rolling, but the energy had shifted, no longer a live talk show, but the aftermath of a collision everyone wished they had seen coming. A producer rushed onto the stage, whispering rapidly into Whoopi's ear. She nodded, then looked back toward the audience with the soft, authoritative tone she reserved for moments when she needed the room to regain its footing. "Everyone take a moment," she said quietly, hands folded. "Let's just breathe." But breathing didn't come easily. Not for the hosts. Not for the audience. Not for the millions who would soon see the clip replayed across every corner of the internet. Joy finally exhaled, rubbing her forehead with a trembling hand. "I didn't think it would go there," she muttered, almost to herself. Sunny glanced at her, choosing her words carefully. "I think she felt cornered, Joy." "I was trying to make a point," Joy snapped, but her voice cracked mid-sentence. "She practically accused me of..." She stopped, swallowing the rest as though realizing how it would sound. "I didn't mean for her to walk out." Whoopi raised her brows slightly. Intent doesn't always match impact. The tension settled again like dust in the spotlights. Meanwhile, backstage, Saoirse had stopped moving. She stood near a wall lined with framed photos of musical guests and guest hosts, her back pressed against the cool surface as she tried to slow her pulse. An assistant hovered several steps away, glancing nervously between Saoirse and the stage door, unsure whether to comfort her or give her space. Saoirse's hands shook as she ran her fingers through her hair. She wasn't angry anymore. She was hurt. Genuinely, deeply hurt. The kind of emotional sting that stays long after the cameras stop recording. Why did she say it like that? Saoirse whispered under her breath. "Like I don't care. Like I'm pretending." She closed her eyes tight. She didn't even listen. A producer approached her gently. "Saoirse, we're sorry about how things escalated. If you want to leave now, we can arrange a car. If you want to speak on air." No, her answer was instant. Soft but final. "No, I'm not going back out there." Back on set, the audience whispered to each other. Some were visibly upset. Others were thrilled to have witnessed something so raw, so unexpected. A few leaned forward, phones already buzzing with notifications as clips began circulating. One woman in the middle row typed furiously into Twitter. "Saoirse Ronan walked out on The View after a heated exchange with Joy Behar. This is wild." Another updated TikTok. "I was literally in the audience when Saoirse got up and left. Joy went too far." Someone else posted the opposite. "Good for Joy." Finally someone said what needed to be said. The world outside the studio was already forming its own storm. On screen, Whoopi tried to regain control, though the audience could sense the strain in her voice. "This isn't the way we wanted the conversation to go," she said. "But sometimes emotions get the best of all of us. We hope Saoirse is all right." Joy sat motionless, staring into the distance. Her eyes shifted only when she noticed the red recording light still glowing on the nearest camera. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Not defensive. Not fiery. Just painfully aware of how she appeared. "She misunderstood me," Joy whispered, but the microphone picked it up clearly. "I didn't want that." The silence that followed was heavier than anything spoken. When the show cut to commercial, the hosts instantly collapsed into anxious discussions with producers. Joy looked desperately toward backstage, as though willing Saoirse to return and undo the moment. But Saoirse remained where she was, breathing, grounded, unwilling to step back into the chaos. Moments later, her car pulled up outside the private exit. She slipped inside quietly, pulling her coat tight around her body. Through the tinted window, she saw a small crowd of paparazzi already forming, news alerts buzzing on their phones as the story spread. One photographer shouted her name. Another yelled, "Did Joy Behar offend you?" A third, "Do you regret the interview?" Saoirse didn't answer. She simply lowered her gaze and told the driver, "Please, just go." Inside the studio, Joy finally stood, pacing. "I should apologize," she said. "I should call her." "She may need some time," Sunny replied gently. "I don't want this to become a media circus," Joy said, but even she could hear the irony. "This will blow up online, won't it?" Whoopi's sigh said everything. It already has. And it had. Within an hour, Clips of the confrontation dominated trending feeds. Hashtags erupted on every platform. #Team Saoirse. #Joy crossed the line. #The View Chaos. #Saoirse Walks Off. Entertainment blogs posted headlines like, Saoirse Ronan storms out of live TV interview after heated clash. News outlets speculated whether Joy would issue a formal apology. Others questioned if Saoirse's reaction was justified. Then came the celebrity responses. Actors who had worked with Saoirse tweeted their support. A director posted, Saoirse is one of the most genuine people in this industry. People need to stop projecting negativity onto her. Joy's longtime fans defended her fiercely. Some co-hosts from past seasons chimed in with subtle but noticeable commentary. It was everywhere. That moment, those few intense seconds where two people misheard, misunderstood, and reacted, became the newest cultural flashpoint. By evening, Saoirse released a short statement through her publicist. I value open conversation and respectful dialogue. Today was emotionally challenging, and I needed to step away. I appreciate everyone who has reached out. No mention of Joy. No anger. Just quiet honesty. Joy, on the other hand, went live on Instagram, a rare move for her. In a dimly lit room, she said, I want to address what happened today. I didn't mean to upset Saoirse. I respect her deeply. I wish she hadn't walked out, but I understand emotions were high. I'm sorry if my words came across the wrong way. Some applauded her. Others accused her of deflecting. The debate deepened. Divisions sharpened. But for millions watching the unfolding drama, one thing was undeniable. They felt like they had witnessed something real. Something unfiltered. Something raw. And the clip kept replaying. And the comments kept pouring. And the tension between fans grew louder with every passing hour. It was exactly the kind of moment that defines a generation of talk show drama. Unexpected, emotional, explosive, unforgettable. If you're watching this right now, you've made it to the end of the full story as it unfolded. The build-up, the breaking point, and the ripple effect still spreading across the internet. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Did Joy go too far? Did Saoirse overreact? Was it a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control? Drop your full thoughts in the comments below, because this is a debate that is only getting louder. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to Talk Narrative for more explosive, cinematic breakdowns of the most dramatic celebrity moments on live TV. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and stay tuned, because the next shockwave is already on the way.